This morning on Colorado Point of View, election security top of mind as we head to the midterms. What's on the table to keep your vote safe?
Something just doesn't add up.
A Colorado lawmaker calls out the biggest names in oil and gas as drivers deal with painful prices at the pump. And Ketanji Brown Jackson makes history.
For all the young women that didn't think that they could be in that position, she is confirming that yes, you can.
Local judges give us their Colorado point of view on this historic moment. That and more right here, right now. Now, good morning to you. I'm Matt Morrow, and this is Colorado Point of View. Right now, the midterm primary is just about 3 months away, and the focus is not just on who's going to be on the ballot, but security for your ballot and the election in general. In fact, just this last week, election security right here in Colorado was called into question again. A group called Concerned Citizens hosted this so-called Colorado Election Truth Rally on the Capitol steps. A few hundred people gathered to listen to the embattled Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters and MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, who's continuing his baseless claims that the 2020 election was full of fraud and stolen from Donald Trump.
Are you dumb? What is wrong with you? Of course I'm trying to tell you don't trust your election. I've been sounding the alarm for a year.
And to that, a group of bipartisan county clerks from all across Colorado are speaking out against the rally, calling on the protesters who still buy into the big lie to provide hard evidence of widespread election fraud that would change the results of the election. Here to talk about that and the security of elections right here in Colorado is the executive director of the Colorado County Clerks Association, former Arapahoe County Clerk Republican Matt Crane, Denver Clerk and Recorder Democrat Paul Lopez, and Republican State Representative Matt Soper, who represents Mesa County. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's get right to it. Have you ever seen any credible evidence of widespread voter fraud here in Colorado?
No. Absolutely not. No.
No, okay. Have you ever seen dead people trying to vote or votes coming in from dead people?
Absolutely not.
No, every now and again, you know, in El Paso County, they caught one last year, but that ballot was caught during ballot processing. It wasn't counted. It was referred to the district attorney's office. So very rarely do we see something like that happen.
What about people trying to vote more than once?
I mean, usually you see that by accident. And if so, we have list maintenance, we have signature verification. If anything like that had ever happened, we would catch it. And if it looked if it looked suspicious of any kind or just smelled wrong, what we do is we send those into our DA, and the DA decides whether to prosecute or not. Not that I can remember.
Not that you can remember. Same thing.
5 elections so far.
Yeah, very infrequently, yes.
Yeah.
Matt, have you heard about this? You're out in Mesa County right now. There's a lot of talk about election security out there.
Right.
Any hard, credible evidence of election fraud that you've seen brought to your attention?
Not that I've seen. What we typically see every election is something's always referred to the DAs. I mean, it's usually a handful.
But that means it's caught, right?
Yeah.
And it's not getting through. It's not something that's going to change the course of an election.
That's correct.
So bottom line, everyone agrees Colorado elections are safe, they are secure.
Mm-hmm. They're safe, they're secure, they're transparent, and they're the top model in the whole nation. So,
a lot of people have said that. All that said, there is a new bill in the State House. It would beef up election security. It comes after Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters now facing multiple criminal charges accused of election tampering. And there is this video where she was caught on police body cameras, now facing charges of assaulting a peace officer. Here's a little bit of what this new bill would do. It would store voting equipment in a secure area accessed only by a key card. It would have year-round 24/7 video surveillance. It bans anyone, including county clerks, from going into the room alone. It would also offer expanded training and certification requirements for election workers. Representative Soper, you've been working on this bill a little bit behind it. I know you've wanted some changes. What do you see of it as of right now, and what do you want to see in terms of new laws with election security?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I see the bill is not quite there for me yet.
Why?
So a couple of reasons why. There's a provision that talks about how a county can't maintain a copy of their own hard drive. I think that's quite troubling for me because they're already charged in statute with maintaining all the election data locally. And for me, that's just a piece that really should be kept local, including a copy of the hard drive.
Anything else you'd like to see added or taken away from the bill in terms of making Colorado's elections safer and more secure?
Yeah, so There is another piece that I certainly would like, when it concerns making the new misdemeanor crime, that anyone in the election pipeline it should apply to, including the Secretary of State.
Gotcha. Matt, Paul, what would you like to see in terms of stronger laws dealing with Colorado's election system, or do you think what we have right now is good enough?
So it's important to note a lot of this bill came from the County Clerks Association. We know what happened in Mesa County was something, it's not acceptable to us as election officials and people who run elections, and so we wanted to come around and see what we needed to do to tighten the security, especially in the case of an insider threat. So, when we talk about a lot of the things in here where it's the certification requirements now being sped up to 6 months, we feel it's important that an election official knows their job before they do their job. If they commit a crime while in the conduct of running an election, they shouldn't be charged with the public trust of running those elections. The additional camera coverage and access controls, we absolutely support that. It's long overdue. Most counties do that now, but it's important to be able to make sure all counties are doing that at all times. And so, this was something that we felt very strongly about, and Coloradans needed to hear from the people who run elections that what happened in Mesa is not acceptable, and we need to and can do better.
How important is it for people to hear it from bipartisan, Republican and Democrat county clerks and people associated with this?
Well, the laws that we have, and then the model that we have, the secure and transparent and accessible model, was built by Republicans and Democrats. And this was, first House Bill 1303 back when. We built upon it. It's something that, right now, every one of Colorado's 64 counties are under the same set of rules and the same set of expectations. We work together as clerks to make sure that we support each other in that, but also it's what makes Colorado's model the top model in the nation. It's secure, it's transparent, and it's something that we take a lot of pride in. The fact that it is bipartisan, the fact that we have Democrat, Republican, and unaffiliated clerks working together says enough.
Yeah, it does. You talk about Colorado's 64 counties, all equal, the way we vote, everyone does it the same. In federal elections across the country, different states vote different way for the president, for senators, and for members of Congress. Should that all be the same for these federal elections to make it a fair playing field?
We should all have access to the ballot. Everybody deserves the right to vote. Colorado's model has been proven to be the national model. We have communicated with our delegation. There is a bill out there. It used to be H.R. 1 and H.R. 4. And what it does, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, is kind of level the playing field for that. It really pains me to know that in a county in Texas, or in Texas in general, you got one box for all those folks. We in Denver are on our 42nd drop box all over the Denver metro area. It is safe, it's secure, it's super easy. We mail you the ballot. You could either mail it back, take it to one of our drop boxes. You could even put a mail ballot that's a Denver ballot in a Lakewood drop box, and it gets back to us. So it's the model that, and you could vote in person if you want to. So, it's what we're trying to communicate to the rest of the country. Like I said, Colorado leads the nation, so it's a little silly when folks say that our elections in Colorado are not secure. That's a fantasy.
All right, last question before we go. Elections, county clerks, the Secretary of State, as we know, they become very partisan, downright vitriolic in the last couple of years. In Colorado, those positions, Secretary of State, county clerks, run from a party, Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, you name it. Should they be nonpartisan, in your opinion, to try to smooth some of this out?
So that's a conversation we've seen really pick up steam over the last few years. You can certainly make an argument for that. I can tell you from my experience as clerk and working in elections for a long time, and nonpartisan elections, so think your odd year, your school board elections or your municipal elections, when you track the phone calls that you get from constituents, perhaps the call that comes in the most is, hey, what party is this person? So people will still find a way to get that information out. Is that a good idea for this, for election officials to maintain that veneer of nonpartisanship? I think a lot of people are coming around to that conclusion.
Paul, yes or no?
For us, it's we work in a bipartisan fashion. So we have a lot of folks working together, from election judges to the county clerk, who may be affiliated with a party or not. It's their First Amendment right to do so. And we honor that. The beauty of our model is that we work together, as we should. It's country before party, right? So, that's just what we do in Denver, and I know that we do across the street as well too. So.
Yeah. Representative Soper, would you be up for a law like that?
You know, I'm not real sure. I mean, I'd have to study it a bit more. I mean, for me, you're elected under a party. That's the system we know. In an ideal world, you'd never hear from your Secretary of State or your county clerk. They should be really nonpartisan in how they behave. It should be more of an administrative position. I think in the last few years, that's been changing here in Colorado, and it's really sad.
All right, Matt Crane, Paul Lopez, Representative Matt Soper, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
This week, history made. The Senate confirmed Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson, making her the first black woman confirmed to the nation's highest court. And today, black women are also making history in Colorado's courts.
It's a good reminder of the importance of what I'm doing, even though I wish it wasn't noteworthy that I'm a person of color serving in the role, but I recognize that it is important.
Our local judges give us a Colorado point of view on this significant moment in our nation's history. Plus, our political panel is back to tackle one of the most important issues to you, gas prices. Ouch. We'll be right back. Stay there.
But here's the thing. If the price of gas is driven by the global market, why is the price of oil coming down, but the price at the pump is still near record highs?
There is a way to produce more American energy. There is a way to be able to bring prices down. They're just not willing to do it.
Well, that is Democratic Colorado Congresswoman Diana DeGette and Republican Senator James Lankford out of Oklahoma going at it over gas prices. I'm fairly certain our political analysts here have a thing or two, or Andy, 3 or 4 to say about that. Joining me now, Democratic strategist, White House and gubernatorial advisor Andy Boyan, and a Republican strategist and the director of the Advanced Colorado Institute, Michael Fields. Andy, Colorado can do exactly what the good senator from Oklahoma says, produce more oil and gas if the state were to change its rules on drilling and fracking and how close this can happen to homes and businesses. With everything going on right now, should Colorado do that?
I mean, of course, there's opportunity to do this. Here's the thing, Matt. There's no easy fix to this process. There are 3 things that need to happen: certainty, investment, and political will to make it happen. We can't just turn on the spigot, actually, and just have it start. That's not how things work. So the problem has been building for years. Last summer, President Biden asked OPEC to increase the amount of oil flowing out of OPEC and was successful in doing so. Domestic production is increasing. Okay, so it's not like we're not listening to this, but now is the time to build the political will. So here's what we do. Let's do this in concert with more renewables, which we need, and more to power the grid. Both power the grid, but we need oil and gas, and we need renewables in concert. So, yes, there's a lot to do here. 3 billion people added by the year 2050 to this earth. We need both to work together.
All right, Michael, the other side of this, Democrats, Andy here said clean energy, wind, solar, hydro. Does it make the state and the nation independent? So why not invest in that?
Well, I think you should be investing in that. I think you need an all of the above energy solution. That's wind, that's solar, that's hydro. But we also have to be realistic about where we're at right now. We use 20 million barrels of oil a day in our country. And you can't just fill that in tomorrow with renewable energy. And as you saw, the gas prices are $4, over $4 a gallon. It's hurting families. And you really think about, we have to produce more here. And we brought this up many times before, talking about that Colorado is the perfect place to go and produce, to loosen up some of these regulations that have been implemented, because we have to get that barrel, per barrel gallon down in terms of price. And so these pipe dreams that Democrats have that we can do this tomorrow is just not true. The Biden administration shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and this is how much oil we brought from Russia at the time in terms of imports. And so, Biden's approval rating is -15 for a reason, and this is part of it.
I know you keep bringing up his polls. I find it funny, though, because Biden
are
went to
the
OPEC
gas
last
prices
summer.
hurting President Biden?
Of course they are.
Democrats
of course,
here in
they're going to hurt
Colorado.
any incumbent that's in office, of course. But Biden went to OPEC last summer, saw this coming. Because of COVID, we slowed down demand. Now that COVID's over, demand picks up. Supply is behind it a little bit in catching back up. But the president's highly responsive.
We're still producing less oil than we were under the last administration right now.
We can't just turn the spigot on. It's got to grow. I mean, it can't grow.
I agree.
Instantly.
These are decisions that were made a year ago, like the Keystone Pipeline, that could be
Keystone is not.
Well, here's something that we can do potentially today. What about cutting the gas tax, putting it on a holiday? 22 cents here in Colorado, 18 cents on the federal level, or doing what some other governors have talked about is basically giving drivers some kind of a tax gas rebate.
Sure. I mean, all those are on the table. All those things should be seriously considered. What we do when we take the gas tax away on a holiday is remove all funding for certain parts of highway reconstruction, potholes that we heard about in Boulder yesterday that swallowed, part of a car. I mean, all those things are on hold. I mean, all kinds of things.
But you look at it, our budget, we have enough money right now. We are overflowing on our state budget. I think they absolutely have to cut and eliminate right now the gas tax on the state level. And you have the Governor Polis out there just saying, let's do it on the federal side and not touch anything on the state.
That's not the entire statement.
It's because of politics.
Okay, let's talk about another big issue here in Colorado. It made news last week. People all across the state and the country are still talking about a controversial bill the governor signed last week, what's called the Reproductive Health Equity Act. It basically enshrines the right to have an abortion with no restriction on the term. Listen to this.
Colorado has been, is, and will be a pro-choice state. We do not imprison or jail doctors or women who choose to take control of their own reproductive health.
Governor Polis there talking about some laws in other states that are now going to the Supreme Court. It drew criticism from those who are pro-life, including Jeff Hunt, the director of the Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University, who tweeted, and I quote, "This will go down as one of the worst days in Colorado history." We could sit here and debate abortion all day. It has been done. It is being done all across the country. At the end of the day, Michael, what kind of effect does this have on Colorado, the reputation of the state, potentially business here?
Well, it doesn't have any impact given the fact that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, and it could be, pretty soon, that Colorado's laws don't change. This is more of a messaging bill than anything. And I think it does highlight, though, the extremeness of our current law here in Colorado. There's no doubt that voters have upheld the right to have an abortion, but we have it all the way up until the time of birth, and I think that's very extreme.
Is it extreme? Is it a good move by Polis to sign this?
Here's what I think. I think it has to do with making private medical decisions on your own. Listen, Democrats wish we didn't have to bring this up, but there are two cases in front of the United States Supreme Court right now challenging Roe v. Wade. We feel we have to bring this up right now to protect a woman's right to choose.
Of course, we'll be following those cases here on Colorado Point of View. Up next, we're tackling the big stories from across the state, the Rocky Mountain Roundup, and we are talking about major news. We'll be right back. Courtrooms in Colorado are more diverse than ever before. A record number of 9 black women are serving as judges throughout the state, some the first black women to take their role in their district. Well, right now, Gabrielle Franklin is talking with these trailblazers about how Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's impact could influence the next generation of Coloradans.
That concludes all matters on the docket for today.
There's something special happening in the Centennial State. In an effort by Governor Jared Polis and Mayor Michael Hancock.
So I was born here in Colorado Springs.
More black women are serving as judges in Colorado courtrooms than ever before. Judge Frances Johnson became the first black woman to serve as a district court judge in El Paso County after Governor Polis appointed her in 2019.
When I received the phone call from Governor Polis's office that I was appointed, that was like exactly what his counsel told me. He said, "We are excited to see you serve in the community where you grew up."
I'm actually from Riviera Beach, Florida, not far from where Judge Jackson grew up, actually.
Though they all come from different backgrounds and upbringings, they all serve in Colorado now, a state where only 4% of the population is black. They say Jackson's appointment serves as a reminder that anything is possible.
I was so enthused. I was so excited. I was happy. I told my whole family, I told my kids that possibility of her being the next Supreme Court Justice just warms my heart. It talks about the promise of our country, what we can be, even if we've never seen that person in that space before.
And though there were moments of contention during Jackson's hearing, they hope those moments teach people to carry on.
It reminded me a little bit of just throughout my lifetime, even when I was just going to college, people making assumptions that I'm in my position or I received a scholarship or, I had opportunities because of my color. And I saw some of that being said about Judge Jackson. And I know it's not true.
And I was inspired by her background, her experience, being a criminal defense attorney, a public defender. All of those experiences bring value to any bench. So what I would say to the young person that's looking towards doing something else, know that you have a lived and personal experience that will bring value to the system of justice.
Gabrielle Franklin, Colorado Point of View.
going to make a big impact now and in the future. Meanwhile, a lot of people are wondering what is next for the embattled Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, facing numerous criminal charges. Let's head to Grand Junction and find out in the Rocky Mountain Roundup.
I'm Austin Sack with KRIX 5 News in Grand Junction. Mesa County's election clerk Tina Peters has taken the national spotlight for the multi-felony charges the clerk now faces following an election security investigation. At last update, Clerk Peters is scheduled to return to court late May. In the meantime, Mesa County commissioners have been left to pick up the pieces. A judge has removed Peters from having any involvement in the elections office, leaving the clerk's position to be filled temporarily.
Trying to do everything we can in a positive fashion to make sure this never repeats itself. But your weakest link, and the one we least suspected would hack the computer, was the clerk herself.
Now, the clerk is innocent until proven guilty, but during the 2020 election, county commissioners conducted a Dominion ballot count on top of a clear ballot and a hand count to ensure Mesa County voters, their voices would be heard.
We have to push forward regardless of whether or not there are felony charges against our clerks. We're pushing forward, and we're going to make sure people have an election here this year.
Come the primary election, Mesa County commissioners have selected Deputy Clerk Brandy Bance as the county's designated election official. In Grand Junction, I'm Austin Sack, Colorado Point of View.
We thank you so much for joining us this morning. That'll do it for our Colorado Point of View on this Sunday. I'm Matt Morrow. I'll see you back here next week.